Ciao amici! Tonight I'm going to be showing you how I make these creepy cool possession boxes using thrifted items that I find at estate sales and other places. This project is part of a video hop hosted by Indiana Jones, so be sure to check out the video description to see the other cool projects and to find out about the fun prize she has offered. So as I mentioned, I make these using thrifted items, and oftentimes the frames aren't in perfect condition. So I can cover up those flaws by using things like crackle paste, or in this case, I'm using a paint that has a textured finish, and that hides the flaws and makes the frame look new again. Next, I have cut the phrase "in case of possession, break glass" from frosted vinyl from Style Tech Craft. So after weeding it, I use transfer tape, also from Style Tech Craft, to get that frosted vinyl onto the glass. Next up, we're going to make the cool little bottles, and those are glass bottles. Usually they have vanilla extract in them. I really have to hunt for these at estate sales. Sometimes I can find a whole bunch, and then other times there's nothing. So when I do find them, I grab them all up, clean them off, take that label off, and rinse it out. After I rinse it, I always leave a little bit of water inside so that when I add my UV resin to it, those water droplets get trapped, and it helps create the illusion of a full bottle of liquid. I don't want to fill it completely with resin because it will get too heavy, so I'm just coating the front of the bottle again to create that illusion. Then I'm going to zap it with the UV light to set that resin. And after that, I use that same frosted vinyl that you saw me use before to cut a cross out and then add that to the front of the bottle. So it's all dried up. And next I go into my junk drawer, basically, where I've collected broken jewelry, drawer knob pulls. I just go through and find something that will fit on top of that bottle, and I will usually super glue that on. Then I go through my other bin with trimmings and findings to find really cool laces, trims, any kind of embellishment to make this not look like a vanilla extract bottle and make it look more like something you would find in a church. Again, I find most of these little things at estate sales. A lot of times nobody will touch the sewing notions, and so I can get a big bag of old trims that are perfect for projects like this. So put them together in a way that looks appealing, and then hot glue those on. The back is what's going to get glued onto the shadow box, so nobody's going to see that. So I don't have to be really careful with making the back side look perfect. I'm more concerned with making the front look appealing and as fancy as possible. So when I'm working with shadow boxes that have the fabric backing, I can use pins to measure and set where the bottle's going to go. So you can see there I used pins to mark it, because there's nothing more frustrating than hot gluing the bottle in place and then realizing it's crooked or not centered. So this way I can make it as perfect as possible. I'm adding a bit of hot glue to the bobbin on the top. That's actually a drawer pull, and then a little bit at the bottom, and just glue it right back onto the backing. I'll always use a ruler or something just to make sure I've got that flush and straight, and then let that hot glue set. After that, I will be gluing on the crosses that go on either side of the bottle. This is one of the few non-thrifted things that I'm using on this project. I've actually designed and cut these with my X-Tool S1 laser cutter. I have collected crosses from estate sales, but they tend to be metal and very heavy, and I'm trying to keep my shadow boxes as light as possible. So this way it's cut from, just some very light 3mm wood, and I've painted it gold, engraved it, cut it out, and then I'm gluing those into place. Once again, I'm using the pins to help mark the position so I can make this as even and, attractive as possible. Once those are hot glued into place, this shadow box is ready to go. Next up, I'm going to show you what I do when I get the shadow boxes that don't have fabric in the backing. With those, we're going to be using some velvet fabric. Again, that's something thrifted. It's easy to find at places like locally. We have something called Spare Parts, which is a creative reuse center, and I can always find lots of cool things there that I use in these projects. So as I mentioned, here is the velvet being hot glued onto the backing of the shadow box. That's just a cardboard backing that came with the frame. I have learned through trial and error that with this very light velvet, I don't want to hot glue the middle because that hot glue kind of seeps through the fabric and you can see it. And it's not attractive. So I'm just going to go right around the edges there and glue that into place. Make sure there's no bubbles or bumps. Still hot gluing, getting that all in place. And just kind of smoothing it out, make sure it's as level as possible. I can put lots of hot glue in the edges there because that gets hidden by the frame. And so even if it comes through the fabric, it's not going to be seen from the front. And then I'm going to flip it over and cut off the excess fabric. Once I have trimmed off that excess fabric, I'm just going to flip it over, mark, measure, and hot glue the items into place. Then you reassemble the shadow box and you're set. In case there's ever a possession, you've got what you need. The fun thing about making these with thrifted and recycled items is that each one is going to be a little bit unique, and so they don't all look the same, and you get to push yourself creatively. These are a ton of fun to make and really fun to display as well. I hope you'll give it a try. Don't forget to leave a comment to be entered for a chance to win, and hope to see you around soon. Keep it spooky, my friends.